Mankind has been searching for the meaning behind every experience that it experiences since the beginning of time. People search for the implication of everything that they encounter. The ability to seek meaning is an advanced form of consciousness. But as we all know too well, with advancement comes pitfalls. An example of one such advancement pitfall is that someone can be egotistical about being egoless. Mankind is what I like to call a pitfall species, whereby the very excellence of their particular consciousness is their very downfall. The ability to derive meaning is both something that sets our species apart as an evolved and rapidly expanding facet of consciousness, and what causes us to self-destruct. We encounter various experiences in our day-to-day life. Some of these we could consider positive experiences, and others we could consider negative experiences. But the flavor of the experience is determined by one particular thing, and that is the meaning that we assign to that experience. It's well known now that one woman will have a completely different experience of labor and delivery than another woman based on the meaning that she assigns to that experience or the sensations that occur during that experience. Two people's experience of the same event is often drastically different based on the fact that they interpret different meaning to the same experience. Think of it this way. If you started uncontrollably vomiting right now, and the meaning you assigned to that experience was that you didn't wash your hands well enough and thus caught a deadly virus, your experience of that particular event, that vomiting, would be quite different than if the meaning you assigned to that experience was that your body was cleansing itself of toxins so as to become anew, renewed, into a state of health. We must see that meaning does not inherently exist in and of itself in a situation. It is, in fact, an interpretation. And you cannot simply take interpretation to be truth. If meaning does not inherently exist in an experience, we must and do assign it to the experience, and then we mistake them for the same thing. Think of this like peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter is the experience, jelly is the meaning we assign to the experience, and if we stir the two together, we mistake them for one thing, a third substance. This disallows us to see the truth of an experience. We must learn to separate the peanut butter from the jelly. In other words, the experience from the meaning, if we are ever to regain a sense of truth and learn to select meaning that benefits us instead of destroys us. If you think this idea of assigning meaning to an experience doesn't sound all too serious, consider that you can destroy the course of your entire life based on assigning meaning to an experience. Case in point, a little 3-year-old girl is playing around in her daddy's office and begs him to play dolls with her. He yells and gets immediately frustrated and says, "No, I'm busy right now." This is a traumatic experience for her. She takes it personally. Now let's pretend the meaning she assigns to this event is, I am insignificant to my dad. That was not the meaning of the experience of the event for the father. The meaning for the father was, I'm busy right now. But the moment that that little girl assigns that meaning to that event, it is as if colored lenses go up over her eyes, and from that moment forward, all experiences that she has with her father are filtered through the lens of, I am insignificant to my father. The truth is now colored and distorted by this perception that the experience of life is filtering through. Every single time this little girl has an interaction with Dad, that interaction will now be colored and distorted by this particular filter. And here's where it gets really, really tricky. Every single time she experiences anything with her father that could potentially strengthen this belief or this meaning, these lenses get thicker and even more distorted, until eventually only those things which strengthen the meaning, i.e. make this thicker, are going to make their way through these glasses. That means anytime this father is loving towards the daughter, it's not even going to make it through the filter. This father could really love his daughter more than anything in life and do all kinds of loving things, but it will not matter because all of his actions are now being filtered through the lens of meaning that she adopted at 3 years old. This girl is likely to grow up believing she is insignificant to men and will end up in relationships with emotionally unavailable men, covering up her misery with various addictions potentially, wondering why her self-esteem is so damn low. Take a look at this lens. Doesn't this account for why two people perceive the same event so differently? What we must consider is that the painful meaning we assign to an experience was not the actual meaning of the experience in the first place. What we must consider is that we've been punishing people or avoiding them for a meaning that we ourselves assigned to that experience with them. It was not something that they inherently did. What we must consider is that much of the pain we were experiencing in our lives is not because of what we actually experienced, but because of the meaning we've assigned to those experiences. Doesn't this also make much more sense why we tend to be so confused about other people's defensive behavior? It's important to note that conflicts about interpretation of meaning account for the majority of our frequent miscommunications. Take a look back over your earliest memories. With each one of these memories, I want you to ask, what is the meaning that I assigned to this particular experience? What did I decide that it meant? Then imagine that at that moment your meaning glasses went on and you interpreted everything that was to follow up into your adulthood through those lenses. Does some of your life make sense? Do some of your relationships make sense? What if the meaning you assigned to an event was not an accurate interpretation at all? I'm going to propose that from this day forward, whenever we encounter something that triggers us or something that we feel emotional pain about, we ask ourselves the following question. What am I making this mean? This allows us to separate out what is actually happening from the meaning that we are assigning to the experience. This gives us an opportunity to set the record straight. For example, let's say that somebody gives you a really crappy birthday present, something that you absolutely hate and would definitely expect other people to know that you hate. Ask yourself, what am I making this mean? Perhaps you'll find that what you're making this mean is the person doesn't actually care about you enough to figure out what you really like and to know you. Now, at this point, we have the opportunity to not put those meaning glasses on and to instead either question that particular meaning that we're assigning ourselves or go to the other person directly with it. You can actually say to them, this is what I'm making this mean. Is that your actual meaning? Not only does this allow the other person to set the record straight, it makes it so that we are not putting those meaning glasses on in the first place, so we are free from illusion. Separate out the peanut butter from the jelly and then question the jelly. In other words, separate out the event that actually happened from the meaning that you assigned to that event, and then question the meaning you assigned to that event, so as to not become completely convinced that it is the absolute truth. Question your meaning instead of assuming it. Take off those meaning glasses you put on so long ago, and prepare to see the world a whole lot clearer. Have a good week.